Shinigami. Hey everyone, hi, welcome back to my channel. I am Shelly, and today I am going to be talking about Death Note. Death Note is a manga series. The story is by Tsugumi Ohba, and the art is by Takeshi Obata. So I have this to talk about. I was like really trying to get the names out and done at the beginning of the video so I didn't have to worry about it, because I know that my pronunciation of Japanese words and names have much to be desired. If you are new here, then welcome. Hi, welcome. I am somebody who loves books and reading, so much so that I have a whole channel dedicated to this passion. It is probably the activity that I'm most passionate about, and that includes manga. So if you are new and you like the vibes, I would encourage you to subscribe, stick around. I also have a Patreon in which you can get early access to all of my videos, including this one, or including ones like this one, because this one will be up for non-Patreon watchers. Anyways, and you can join for as little as $1 a month, and it's really helpful to me. Though I do like to say that just being here is enough for me and my heart. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. So I've read the first 8 or 9 chapters of Death Note, and I wanted to give some initial thoughts and like an initial reaction of the series so far, because I feel like it's a lot. It's a lot, and I have some thoughts about it thus far. I also know that the first arc, or the first main part, is 59 chapters, and that's just a lot to summarize when one gets there. So I wanted to give some initial ideas at the beginning while I'm embarking on this Death Note journey, and to be able to discuss it with you. So no, contextually, I only have read the first 8 or 9 chapters. I should go back and look, but I'm not going to. My very first reaction when I opened up the book and I saw the Shinigami, my heart dropped. It scared me. It like made my heart race, because it was so frightening to me. The character design of the Shinigami and the world, it just looked like pure evil in a weird way. Like, take that with a grain of salt. I don't really exactly know. There was like a darkness to it. It felt very dark, but similar to a lot of things that one reads, or, when you actually get into it, that kind of thing goes away. It's almost like saying Edward Scissorhands by the movie directed by Tim Burton. It's almost like saying that's a scary movie, or the Nightmare Before Christmas. It's like there's maybe like a dark tone to it all, but it's not intended to be a dark movie, especially Edward Scissorhands. It's sort of, arguably, it's a beautiful, if not sad and sobering love story, Beauty and the Beast-esque kind of thing. So anyways, Death Note had that same initial feeling. I opened it up and then I closed it. My heart was racing, and then I didn't go back to it for a few days. That's exactly how I reacted to it initially. I was just like, what is this? And then once we get out of the Shinigami world, I felt a little bit better. So what happens is that from the Shinigami world, this notebook gets dropped, and it is picked up by a high school student named Light. He is a brilliant student. Very, very smart. I actually don't even think I understand his brilliance just yet, because I'm at the sort of beginning of the series. And because he touched the Death Note notebook, which we find out is the Death Note notebook, we realize that this Shinigami is sort of following him around. He can see this Shinigami, okay? I'm like,
I want to eat more things.
I had a small interruption. So I was trying to describe how Light, having possession of this notebook, this Death Note notebook, he can now see the Shinigami that's attached to it. He can like see shinigamis, or maybe he can see that shinigami. The world is complex, to say the least. So Light gets a hold of this notebook, and because the shinigami is bored, he is there as like this spiritual this creature that is like watching. I feel like there's a specific name for this trope, or this kind of character, this character archetype. He's almost like a Greek god, because you know how there's like the chorus, like the Greek chorus that watches over the main character, like Odysseus, or is watching over what everyone is doing on Earth down below. And often what the chorus speaks about or sings about, or brings to the discussion of certain things, is more telling and more truthful than the main characters themselves even know. So in a strange way, I feel like the shinigami in Light's world is sort of this not only observer, but often speaks a sort of plain spoken truth over the whole series in a way. So Light gets this notebook, and this notebook has the power to kill. You have to see the face of the person you want to kill, or that you want dead. You have to envision their face and write their name down. And if they're in the notebook, and if you just write their name down and envision their face, they'll die of a heart attack. And there's time stuff, like you can really get in the weeds with this one, with this comic, or not with this manga. Oh my goodness, Shelley. But then there's some loopholes in that Light can write down the name, or the scribe of the death note can write down a name, and then also write down details of the death, and really control the death of a person, the time, and all of that, and the way, even the way that someone dies. So the premise is really fascinating. The idea is gripping. So what does Light do? He takes this notebook and he wants to use it for good, essentially. He is like, originally he was like, I want to create a utopia almost. I want to get rid of the evil in the world. And so he envisions, he starts following the news really intensely, or what seems to me, because I'm new to this Light character, I don't know what his news viewing habits were before. And when the news reports on evil people in the world, rapists and murderers, he sets it upon himself to write down, those people's names in his death note, and they die. And he, in essence, becomes the judge of life and death because of this notebook. What's interesting is that I really think the most fascinating part is the question of when you give somebody the power, sort of this accessible, easy, powerful tool to kill others, what will they use it for? And is it okay, the initial sort of question among it all was, is it okay to kill already evil people who have done wrong in the world? And you could even bring it back to like our day and age and talk about the death penalty, So Light clearly thinks it's okay that he can kill other people who have done evil in the world in this grander scheme of a utopia, or this grander idea of creating a utopian society. Of course, what gets really interesting is that when the police, or when, the police, or their FBI, I forget exactly what it's called, but, their judicial system in Japan is alarmed because there are so many people dying that have criminal backgrounds that are dying in the exact same way of a heart attack. Because at this point, at the beginning of the story, Light is just writing down the names and envisioning their faces in his mind. And so since he's not adding any details to their deaths, they're just dying of a heart attack. And so this really alerts the law enforcement in Japan. And they're like, what is happening? And after law enforcement is on the alert, we also find out that they have a special agent named L, and L, his identity is unknown. And L is a brilliant character or a brilliant person in the world of Death Note, in that he helps them solve really high profile cases. He helps law enforcement get down to really complex cases. And it really, you see the divergence of thinking immediately, because L is saying that even if one murders somebody who is a bad person, an evil person, let's say, that still makes that initial person, the first person, the good person who's killing the bad people, it still makes them a murderer. So he thinks that his Light's name, our young high schooler who's taking it upon himself to write a lot of names down in his notebook, his new name, according to the media and according to the law enforcement, is called Kira. And so he thinks L, our secret, faceless, brilliant agent, for lack of a better term, believes that Kira should be caught and justice should be served on him or her. He doesn't know the identity of this person. And so you immediately get these two ways of thinking about death and life, and really who owns the power to have over death and life. And in a lot of ways, it's reminding me of two things, one of which is very sort of provincial of me, or like modern. But it reminds me a little bit of Dexter, the book series. But I watched some of the television series. It scared me too much, to be honest. And Dexter, sort of inside his own moral, inside of his genetic makeup, or for lack of a better term, has these urges to kill people. But he does the same thing that L is doing, or no, not L, that Kira is doing, and seeking out bad people already, and he uses that to kill. He uses his detectiving skills and his murdering skills to murdering desires. He only executes that on evil people, essentially. So it is this moral question of is he good or is he bad? As a viewer, it's interesting because at least with Dexter, you tend to quite like him. You don't want him to get caught. I feel mixed about Kira. I feel like it's far more complicated than that, because partly I'll get into the next part that I had just read, because that's really the initial setup. So now, we have this beautiful setup of a cat and mouse game chase setup. I mean, but they're both brilliant. They're brilliant cat and mouse. They're geniuses. And they have, it's they're both trying to hide their identity, because if Kira finds out L's identity, then Kira can easily write down L's identity in the notebook and kill L. And so it's this game of wits, really, this battle of wits. In a weird way, it also really reminds me of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, because Frankenstein is obsessed with creating life, not creating death. And in that obsession of godlike power, he really becomes he's really petulant and annoying, but he becomes a monster himself. Dr. Frankenstein becomes the actual monster of the creation that he has. And it's so with great power, oh my gosh, I'm going to be all Spider-Man-y. With great power becomes great responsibility. And we see that in Frankenstein. He had this power, he did create life, but he did something terrible. He reacted, his ownership of his creation was ridiculous and awful. and just terrible, terrible, and he does terrible things because of it. And so, in a weird way, Kira is doing that as well, because he ends up, in my estimation, becoming so worried or becoming so concerned that he's going to get caught that in the latest chapter that I read, he kills a bunch of agents. I mean, he does it, he contrives the system, and he gets the names and the faces of the agents working on the Kira case. And so Light ends up killing agents working on the Kira case so that maybe they would drop the case, or like, I forget the motivation behind it. But I was like, those are, innocent people doing their jobs. Those are people. I don't know. Those are people, and they're just doing what they think is best. And so I do tend to. I at first I was like, I don't know who to root for. I'm not really sure which side I'm supposed to be on, because here we have this kid who is maybe attempting in his own way and with the powers that he has, which is a lot, to make a utopian society, and then from there it turns out for the Death Note to serve selfish means. And so it's been interesting. So it's kind of interesting too, because in a lot of ways we're playing the role of the Shinigami. We're just watching and having dialogue and talking, we're thinking and watching it from afar. Of course, we know like maybe a little bit more than the Shinigami does. So I don't know. I don't know where this series is going. And I guess I'll give these as this is my final kind of thoughts about it. This is purely a me thing. I know this is me. The complexities of the world sometimes I find a touch laborious, because it's like the rules of this world are constantly changing, and sometimes in very explicit ways. Like the Shinigami will just be like, oh, and this thing about the Death Note, and you're like, what? Like that's totally that I did what? And so sometimes it feels like the rules of the game are changing as it's being played, which is fine, but it throws me off a little bit. And sometimes I feel slightly resistant, because some of the rules can be quite convoluted. And also, I really, really love slow-paced stuff. And when I did my review or my chat about Spy Family and how much I enjoyed Spy Family, and like that I just found it really funny, like that, to me, the pacing of Spy Family is perfect. Like I'm getting to know the characters, I'm understanding what their motivations are. I am not getting like this verbal or this like information dump, really. We're getting like bits and pieces, and it's starting to take shape, and it's being molded in front of me, and I'm like, okay. It's almost as if like I'm more okay with it being a block of marble first, and then I'm watching the artist sort of chip away at the shape and structure. In a lot of ways, I feel like One Piece is like that too. It's this shape and structure. Whereas to give a comparison, I don't know why I'm doing the art thing, but to give a comparison of another like art piece is like, it's like, this is like clay. Death Note is like clay, and it's sort of like being molded very rapidly in front of the reader. And then like clay, you can kind of destroy it all and then reshape it, And it's kind of like, whoa, what is happening? What's going on here? And so it's a little like, sometimes the pacing and the way that it's unfolding is a bit quick and a bit jarring for me. It doesn't mean that I'm not enjoying it. I just think that if I were to rank the the manga that I've read thus far, it might be on the bottom for that. But, I don't think that that's a bad thing. I've also read very little. So, and who knows, it might be one of those things where it's stretching me as a reader now, and it'll really stick with me later. I don't know. But I like the philosophical questions. I like the context and the complexity. Just sometimes I feel like we get there very quickly. And I guess that would be, you know, a critique or something that isn't aligned with what I love as a reader. So, you know, so that's it. I'm going to continue to read though. I've been really enjoying it. And the journey is just like wild to me. And I'm wondering where it will go. And yeah, that's it. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you've read Death Note and what you think and where things change. And I know that there's like a female character that looks like she's going to be coming into the scene, and I'm just wondering how that's going to go. Like, I'm just so curious. I am curious about it. Again, but sometimes I think the resistance that I feel with the series itself is because of its sort of rapido pacing, like how quick the pacing is. So yeah, all right, that's it from me. I am gonna stop talking. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye.